When an atheist professor publicly mocked God in front of Barron Trump, he thought it would be an easy win. But what he got instead was total humiliation. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It happened at one of those prestigious academic conferences where America's brightest young minds gather. The kind of event where professors love to show off their intellectual superiority and progressive ideals. Among the attendees was Barron Trump, who had earned his place there through academic excellence, though many whispered he was only there because of his last name. Professor Richard Anderson was known throughout academic circles for his sharp wit and sharper tongue. A self-proclaimed champion of modern thinking, he had made quite a name for himself by ridiculing traditional values, particularly Christian beliefs. His lectures weren't just classes, they were performances where faith was the punchline and God was the joke. As students filed into the grand lecture hall that morning, there was already a buzz in the air. Professor Anderson's reputation preceded him, and everyone knew his lectures were more like intellectual gladiator matches. What they didn't know was that today's match would have an unexpected champion. The professor began his lecture with his usual flair, pacing the front of the room like a predator sizing up its prey. His topic? Leaving antiquated beliefs behind, embracing modern rationality. His eyes scanned the room, landing briefly on Barron, a slight smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Little did he know, he was about to face the most challenging and humbling experience of his academic career. Let's address the elephant in the room, Professor Anderson declared, folding his arms across his chest. Studies consistently show an inverse correlation between intelligence and religious belief. In simpler terms, for those who might need it, he smirked, looking directly at Barron, the smarter you are, the less likely you are to believe in supernatural fantasies. Several students shifted uncomfortably as Professor Anderson pulled up a graph on the screen. See this declining line? This is what happens to religious belief as IQ and education levels rise. Fascinating, isn't it? Though I suppose some people's family traditions, another pointed look at Barron, make it harder for them to accept basic cognitive development. From his position near the back, Professor Thompson watched with growing concern as his colleague crossed line after line. He'd seen Anderson be provocative before, but this was different. This was personal. You know what I find truly remarkable? Anderson continued, his voice dripping with intellectual superiority. In this room, we have some of the brightest young minds in America. Future scientists, leaders, thinkers. Yet I guarantee some of you still cling to these primitive beliefs, unable to break free from your cognitive limitations. Barron sat perfectly still, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Unlike the other students who either nervously laughed or stared at their desks, he met the professor's gaze with unwavering composure. This seemed to fuel Anderson's contempt even further. Tell me, he challenged, removing his glasses and leaning forward on his podium. What does it say about someone's intellectual capacity when they still believe in an invisible sky daddy in 2025?